What's up, YouTube? This is Alex. Today we're going to be talking about wildlife cameras. Here's one right here. I'll go into more details in a few minutes on how they work. But for now, they've really revolutionized wildlife research in the last, I'd say, 10 to 15 years. I think partly because there's been this push towards non-invasive research, meaning that you don't have to catch the animal and you don't even have to be there to do this research on animals. You just go out in the woods or wherever, put up these cameras, and when an animal walks by, it takes a photo of it. So really, there's these really great tools designed to understand where animals are and when they're active in a way that isn't going to disturb their natural activity. Leave me a comment below. Tell me what your favorite animal is to observe. That can be with your own wildlife camera if you have one, or with your eyeballs. So it can be in your backyard, maybe even something a little more exotic.
So this is one of our wildlife cameras right there, and it's taking a photo of us right now, or multiple photos. So it gets triggered by movement and a heat differential. So anything, what we call quote unquote warm-blooded will trigger the camera as it's walking by. And you can see it's aimed right here at this road, and so any animals going by, it's going to be taking a photo of. And so this is also part of our project. We have almost 100 of these cameras spaced out through our study area, and we're basically trying to figure out where animals are and when they are. So they active at the same times during the day, or do they use the same space, and how does that relate to the habitat that's around us? So we might see certain animals in more of this kind of habitat, and certain animals maybe in younger, smaller pine habitat or clear cuts. So one of our cameras right there, and that's our sign, just saying, if you see this, don't disturb it. It's a research project.
All right, let's talk a little bit about how these work. So here's an example, a Bushnell wildlife camera. On the front, there's three main parts. Up top, we have the flash. And there's actually two types of flashes in wildlife cameras that I know of. The first, which was really common when these first were getting popular, is a white flash. And that's just like the flash you would have on your phone or your camera. But we quickly found out that some animals are afraid of that. So the flash will go off at night and they'll freak out and run away, and then might not come back. So that's not good. We don't want to change your behavior. And so most cameras nowadays, like this one, have an infrared flash. And what that means is below our visible light spectrum and below most other animals' visible light spectrum. So they might sense it still, but they're not nearly as afraid as the white flash. Next is the lens. I'm looking at one right now, just like you would have on your phone or whatever to take pictures. Next is a sensor. And remember, I was in the field, I was talking about that heat differential. So basically this senses a moving object that is different in temperature than the surrounding environment. So generally that means like a warm-blooded animal, like a mammal or something, moving across the frame of the camera. So that's the front right there. Open up inside, we got the batteries. Of course, these cameras can last for months, really depending on how many photos they're taking, the settings we have them on, whether or not you're on video mode as well. But we check our cameras every 1 to 2 months or so, probably on average. And that's just to make sure the batteries are still working, the SD card hasn't filled up, that it hasn't been knocked off aim, it's still recording information, still working. Over here we have the controls, and then the screen, which has the settings and stuff. So down here, there's the 3 different modes. So there's off, setup, and on. So I'll go ahead and put up in the setup mode. For some reason, the light kind of washes off the screen here, but you can see the screen lit up. So now there's some information on the screen, and I can use these controls here to change the setting. So things like how many photos do you want to take when it goes off? Do you want it in video mode or camera mode? How sensitive do you want the camera to be? So do you want it to be really sensitive to slight motion, or not as sensitive? Things like that you can change in the settings. And this one doesn't have it, but the newer, maybe higher end camera models also can show you the photos, so like a preview of the photos. So you can come, check the camera, after a couple months of leaving it out there, and just make sure that it's been taking photos, and kind of check the frame of the photos as well. One thing that's cool when we're in setup mode is this red light right here that's flashing. You can see right there, and that's basically what we call walk test mode. So what we'll do is we'll put this camera on a tree or whatever, where we aim it how we think we want it, and then we'll walk around, we'll crawl around, we'll slither around on the ground, and make sure that camera is triggering us where we want it to be triggered. As if we were a fox or a deer or whatever. And so that light flashes basically when it would be taking photos of us. So that's really useful. And next mode is just on, so that screen will turn off. This light will flash a few times, letting us know, hey, I'm arming, I'm about to start taking some photos, and it might be taking some pretty soon here, so I'll go and turn it off. And then those photos are stored on this SD card here. So that's what we store the photos on. We'll take this back and put it on our laptop and download the photos to it. So what we'll do in the field is we'll have a whole pouch of blank SD cards, and we'll just swap them out basically. So we'll take out the full one and put in a fresh blank one, and that will be taking the photos for the next round. So that's this model right here. I have another model just to compare side by side. So this one's Bushnell, this one's Reconyx, and as you can see in the front, similar setup, right? We got the flash up top, infrared or IR, the lens down here, and then the sensor. Both of these models are several years old at least. I think this one might be up to 10 years old or so. And so there's been some advances, as you can see, inside this one. It doesn't even really have a screen, it just has kind of like a track phone, some of the older cell phone kind of version. But as you can see, 12 batteries versus 8, so maybe it lasts a little longer. And when these were first released, this model at least, I think they went for about $600, and these probably 150 to 200 or so. And so what you're getting with this more expensive model is probably higher quality photos, especially at night, faster trigger speed, things like that, and maybe longer lasting with the batteries and stuff. So some things to consider, trade-offs when thinking about wildlife cameras. I think that's it for the details of how they work. All right, just want to quickly show you a photo here and talk about some of the information that we can get from the camera. So here's a really nice photo of two bobcats from our study site, and kind of direct your attention down here at the bottom to this bar down here. And this first set of numbers and letters is our site name. So CDA stands for Coyote Deer Array, and then Site 73. And then they also have temperature information as well as the moon phase, which can be useful. And then critically, when was it? So what was the date, and then what was the time? And I talked about metadata just a second ago, and basically what that means is we can use software or a program to analyze these photos for us and tell us, okay, this photo, it can extract that data, essentially the date and the time from the photo, and then we have to go through and enter what species it was. All right, thanks for watching this video on wildlife cameras. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and let me know which favorite animal is to observe. Peace.